You know, the argument about the wind towards their own borders and towards their own country doesn't work, because from what we observe, the situation with the Zaporizhia nuclear power plants, completely mined by the Russian occupiers right now, and this is very threatening situation. It might be another catastrophe, not only in Ukraine but on the European continent. They don't think about the winds and its direction towards their country.
No, they don't.
It can be used like a weapon to stop the counteroffensive or any other maybe actions of Ukraine soldiers or army, or not?
No, it can't. It can't, because
Why?
you just go around the outside.
Why are you so sure?
Because I've been studying this for 50 years. You just go around the outside. It is a large bomb that's dirty. It's only the same. There's more power with tactical nuclear weapons. There is more power in the engine, in the fuel, than there is in the actual warhead. You didn't know that. So to actually just throw it where you've got to throw it, there's more physical energy in the engine than there is in the warhead. Now, when it goes off, it's going to make a very big hole and a very nasty disaster. But Ukraine is a huge country. You would need lots and lots and lots of them. And the moment you fire one of those, the war has changed. So the counteroffensive will change. It will change for the Russian army as well. They're not all going. None of them have got nuclear chemical dress. Okay, so they're not sitting there with their helmets and everything else. They haven't got any. So what are they going to do when a nuclear weapon goes off in front of them, blinds all those who haven't been told it's going to be fired, because they will be blinded? What's going to happen to all the Russian soldiers? Most of them are going to get up and go home, because they don't want to fight in something like this. They're not going to stand there with their eyes closed, blinded, saying, oh, that was jolly good. That stopped the counteroffensive. This is not a game that you can play unless you are an extremely, extremely sophisticated army with all the right equipment. In the Cold War, we all had the right equipment. If we see the Russians issuing the front line with this equipment, then maybe we'll understand that someone's about to do something. But at the moment, it would cause as much damage to their own side as it would cause to the Ukrainians, almost certainly. Otherwise, they're not firing at the counterattack. They're firing somewhere else.
But, you know, returning from the battlefield from Ukraine, if they are happy to return somehow home to Moscow, not to Moscow, okay, to the far, far away regions from Moscow, without hands,
Siberia,
without legs, without eyes, without brain, whatever, it doesn't stop the others from finding a way to avoid. They will not make riots in the Russian Federation, but they still believe in some illusionary fascist or other stupid things that continue to get into the heads of Russians through the television, still continue, even though lots of evidences that it's not everything according to the plan of Putin. Far, far away from the plan of Putin, but they still believe somehow.
Yeah, because Putin's deity. He's a god. This is religion. I mean, it always has been. You know, the Tsar is the god, and Putin is the god. It's religion. Therefore, whatever he says, he can't do anything wrong. Okay, some of the oligarchs who are Western educated, they understand, of course, he can do things wrong, and they may not be very happy with this. But none of his close coterie of oligarchs are going to be very happy at the thought of nuclear weapons being fired. Remember how many of these people around Putin have got their families in the West, in the Netherlands, in Britain, in Monaco, lots of them. Are they really, really going to want to start a nuclear war where their children and wives are killed? I don't think so.
One more very difficult question, but still I want to stress on it and want to hear your point of view. In a number of cases, Western politicians still give weapons to Ukraine, even against the opinion of their military.
Ukraine, tragically, and it is a tragedy that this has had to be the case, has become a battle lab.
I therefore welcome that many allies will today commit to providing long-term security assistance to Ukraine. This will help deter any future aggression from Russia after this war ends.
Et donc, nous avons décidé de livrer de nouveaux missiles permettant des frappes dans la profondeur à l'Ukraine.
But on the other hand, sometimes they say the following argument: supporting Ukraine is a great idea, but first decide how you will replenish our own arsenals and equipment and fleet. We talked about this in the beginning of our conversation, but still, I want to remember the conversation and an interview on Deutsche Welle television that journalist of this TV channel asked a German deputy in an interview with the same arguments. Are you going to continue the war on your own territory, I mean the German territory? So is this question relevant for other European countries, and particularly from Eastern Europe? Can it really be possible, the war with the NATO country in the nearest future?
Oh, I think you've asked more than one question there. I mean, I think you need to go back to this thing about, why do generals say, don't give away all our weapons? Well, that's understandable because someone might actually ask them to fight. And if you've taken away all their weapons and then you ask them to fight for NATO, they can't do it, they lose their jobs. And everybody will blame them. So, there's a degree of tension between the military wanting to keep their military ability as an organization and the politicians who maybe see the wider picture. But most of the Eastern European countries have given up huge amounts of their firepower. I mean, Latvia has effectively given all its air defense weapons, I think all its anti-tank weapons, and they are relying upon 100% upon America being able to actually come and fight for them if something goes wrong. Mm. So you're getting huge support from Estonia, Latvia, and places, and they are relying on the overall strength of NATO to allow them to give you a lot of stuff. I think the weakest one in many ways is America, because America has still got huge amounts more equipment sitting in the desert that they could give you. And I still don't understand why they haven't actually started pulling a lot of that out, because they're never going to use it in their own army. They're never going to expand and use these old weapons. Because they're just not going to. So I'm surprised America hasn't given you more. But NATO fighting, only if they're attacked. I don't see any political change on the horizon or hear of anything else.
So maybe my final question will be about your prediction. At what point, according to all the facts that we discussed right now, the counteroffensive might be stopped or finished by Ukrainian side? I mean, by our decision and our ability.
I don't think you will. Because I think that the mass of the population in Ukraine has decided this war has to be won, and I don't feel any weakness in that. I do feel. I'm still suspicious about many of the people in government and parliament, and I say so regularly, that they were more likely to give in and accept the loss of Donetsk area and Crimea and carry on as they are. But the population is going to keep going. If it goes into another year or even another 2 years, I don't see people giving up yet. I think there's a lot more to do. And if anything, I would say the resolve is getting stronger from people, certainly amongst the women. There is a much stronger hardness amongst women in Ukraine about winning this war than I felt maybe a year ago.
And one more thing, you told me that you don't see any decisions that can be proposed to Ukraine in a way of security for the rest 3, maybe 5 years for not letting Russia to do it again with Ukraine after the war ends. You said no ideas right now. But I wanted to ask in this direction, what mostly threatens the politicians that don't have such idea? The nuclear weapon and nuclear war globally, or the collapse of Russian Federation and all the consequences that might bring it to the world, the migrant crisis, the nuclear weapon in the other hands of crazy people. No,
neither of those things. Neither of those things. Their own political careers and their own parties and their own future in their own country. Selfishness above all. I'm sorry, but people. It's like Russians think that the world should respect them. Ukrainians think that everybody should be thinking about them and the Russia war. They're not. Look at where the politicians go on holiday from other countries and what they're doing, and how many of them stand up and talk about Ukraine regularly. You've got a great bunch in UK in the Parliament, strong, very powerful, and they do. But I tell you, there are an awful lot of politicians who give Ukraine 5 minutes a day. Still, because they don't believe they're at war. And until the West gets hurt, they won't believe they're at war. It will carry on in the same way that it's going at the moment.
So thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for your honest answers. Obviously, thank you very much for the help of the countries of European world in standing still here in Ukraine, independence with our soldiers and our army. And obviously, thank you for your optimistic perspective that you we're going to win. We are going to win. Yeah.
It just may take a little longer than we want. That's all.
We will.